All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday meetings, June the 20th. Welcome to all of our members from around the world and throughout the United States and Canada. As I say every week, our meetings are each and every Wednesday until the 21st or the 30th of June of this year. They're always from 11:30 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone must be a member to be at our meetings, and that's because of Zoom security issues. We have 44 weekly meetings a year, and one of the strongest Mac user groups as far as activity in the world. Our classes have begun. They started last Saturday. We had about 93 that were signed up for the class. So if you haven't signed up for our classes, please go ahead and do it. They're filling up. We're way ahead of last year as far as signups are concerned. The first class, which was supposed to be a couple of weeks ago, was changed until March the 20th because our instructor became ill. And we haven't basically heard from her, so we now have Dan Wazink of Dan's Tutorial that will be doing the Zoom class, and it was rescheduled until March the 20th. This coming Saturday will be our second class on the Big Sur by the instructor, Jeff Bohr. Like I said, his first class had the largest turnout of any class we've ever had in the Naples Mac user group. And I just wanted to announce Marilyn will be back with us. She teaches every year, usually the iOS OS classes. So on January the 30th, she'll be teaching the Apple iOS 14 class. And on February 6th, the iPad OS 14 class. So make sure you get signed up for those classes. Here's a list, and I will be doing the video either tonight or sometime tomorrow, and these will be listed in the video. Eckert is our Zoom and class registrar, our Zoom genius. And he works really, really hard on putting these classes together and does a lot of the background work. Make sure you guys all get in, you're all signed up. Last minute problems are resolved. And we really appreciate all of his hard work. Our meeting on February the 3rd will be done by Ed Evans. Ed is taking a shot at running a monthly Monday or Wednesday meeting, the first of every other month. And he's a member of the group and a board member and a Final Cut Pro expert. So he'll be with us on the 3rd. On the 27th, which is next Wednesday, is our 37th annual meeting. The group is older than 37 years old, but as far as our bylaws are concerned and so forth, it appears that we officially started 37 years ago. To show your support for the board of directors, I hope everybody's there. We're going to talk about a lot of the great things we accomplished last year. We never missed a meeting. With Eckert's help, Cheetah's help, and everybody on the board's help, we have never missed a meeting at the Naples Mac user group. And we have continued on, and Zoom has been very good for us. And all of our members seem to enjoy the user experience. we will be making a very, very surprised announcement at this meeting. So I would encourage everybody to be there to hear about this great announcement that we're going to make. We really appreciate if you come to this meeting because we really want to share with you and hear from you things that we can do to keep improving the club. Today's meeting is Genealogy with Wayne Mertz. Wayne is our professional genealogist genius, and he usually has a meeting every spring or during the first quarter of every year. So welcome back, and we're all looking forward to this meeting. Thank you. It's all yours now.
Thank you, George.
Oh, by the way, thank you all for attending. I know that we're in competition today with the inauguration, but it appears we now have 44 members, which means we'll probably have a total of about something in the mid 50s. So we thank you for coming, and you'll be able to see the inauguration at least 1,000 times in the next couple of days.
Good morning. I'm Wayne Mertz. I'm a member of Naples Mac User Group for about 5 years. I'm not, as George said, a professional genealogist or an expert. I'm a hobbyist, and I'm also an amateur at this, but it's something that I really feel strongly about. It's helped me learn more about where I came from and why I feel like I do at times. My presentation is about things that work in your journey to researching your family that have worked for me. And let's see, I'm going to switch this. The things that we all have question about is, could be, if you think about your family history, where were your great grandfather and your great grandmother born? You probably know where your parents were born, and probably your grandparents. But then you might not have known your great grandparents very well. Where were they born? Who were their parents? How did they come to the United States? What was the United States like when they arrived? What did they look like? Any pictures? 1,000 other questions. A couple to me was a name change. My family history did not have Mertz in it at all up until my great grandfather, till 1900. And DNA has provided a new spectrum on genealogy, genetic genealogy. And in my reports, I've done about 3 different tests. I have a person named IC, and people have been asking me, who is IC? I don't know. So we're not going to talk much about DNA today. That's for maybe a future presentation. But IC is more my first cousin than anybody that I know is a first cousin. There's more connection DNA-wise to her or him. So let's go on. The agenda today is I'm going to do a little background as to how I got involved with this. In industry accepted reference books I'd like to show you that are used throughout the industry. Successful research methods will be discussed. Genealogy software that works on Apple as well as the Windows-based programs. How do I keep up to date with podcasts and YouTube? So I'll make some suggestions there. There is a unique way of searching when you focus on genealogy that really can get you back into your ancestors' world. And I want to make sure I get that in. And then tips and methods for helping break barriers. I've got 3 different expert comments on that. And finally, something that when I did the presentation last year at Naples Mac User Group, I left the next morning for Roots Tech 2020. This year, it's happening again, and I'll tell you how you can register very easily. It's a virtual one. Okay, onward. This is an image, a drawing, a representation of New York City in approximately 1880, and it's in the where people came into the United States. It
Wayne,
wasn't Ellis Island. Yes,
Wayne, are you sharing your screen? We don't see an image.
I think so. Oh,
Nope.
oh, all right. Let me go escape here. Share screen. Share. All
There
right.
you are. Much better.
Okay. That's good. Now I got it. So this image is on the bottom of Battery Park in New York City, where it was done. And it kind of expresses a lot of things. In the center is this girl that's wondering, what am I doing here? This guy's trying to explain why they're there. And here's other families with young children all around trying to get into the United States. And it was a really difficult process to get into the United States from around the world. My particular focus on genealogy came about when in upstate New York, 25 years ago, someone pointed me to an old cemetery, and it was an old city cemetery, and it proved to be very confusing because 60 graves were my ancestors, but only 3 or 4 were in the surname of Mertz. So that was very confusing, but it turned out to be a treasure chest of family history. But that also led me to get an understanding about what life was like in the United States in the 1880s, the late 18th century or 19th century, and the early 20th century, as well as in Europe, North and Eastern Europe. The area my ancestors were from was a town in East Prussia, which is now in Poland. And my father and my older brother and I traveled there in this town of about 30 houses. Our family had lived in that town for a century, for 100 years. I learned about their local history, about New York's local history, upstate New York, migration methods, the routes they took to get to America, and what really motivated them to get to the United States, to America. This presentation is not about the things I learned, the specific things, but how I learned them, how I discovered them, the successful methods that I use by following what the professionals use. So that's the background, and I want to bring out these reference books. I told you about the agenda. First reference book is, this is the standards that the professionals use and mandate for genealogists who want to be designated as professionals. They have to follow these standards, and it's written by the Board for Certification of Genealogists. And now I got it. Let's see, go back here. That first one was just strictly a description of the standards. How you accomplish all of that is a person named Elizabeth Schoen Mills put together this book, and it's a very thick book, as you can see, and it's a detailed description and overview of what a professional genealogist has to do to prepare and practice the standards and follow the standards and execute genealogical research so as to make sure that it's done properly. Back over here. Genealogy genealogical documentation. There's a fellow named Thomas Jones that focused on this, and he's written a book, and it tells you about how to create source citations that can be put into your family history, in your family history book that you might create, and to do it in such a way that anybody that picks that book up in the future can go right to that document and see the source, the original source. It's very important. It's something that I didn't do at first 25 years ago. And my challenge now is to go back and document all the things that I found. I'm convinced I have the right stuff, but I have to make sure that the people I pass this down to have that information. And not going to talk about, whoop, that's the wrong one. I got linked badly on that one. I'll go to this one. Lost my link. Try it once more. Here we go. This is a book on genetic genealogy, DNA testing, and it's written by Blaine. His name is Blaine Bettinger. He's pretty much the most quoted specialist in genetic genealogy. He's not the best DNA scientist, but he knows how to connect it to genetic genealogy. And this book these are the standard 4 books that people have to understand and prepare for when they're trying to get certified. I'm not, but okay. So there's another book, and this book kind of takes together all those 4 books and makes it a practical application in something called Research Like a Pro. I'll show you the book here. Research Like a Pro was written by Diana Elder and Nicole Dyer, who's her daughter, and it is accessible online and is one of the easier books that I use to understand all the things necessary for creating a family history that everybody can follow. Their approach that she created was to create a research objective. After you've done the basics and gotten into put together a general structure about what you know, who you know, now you got to find out about the people you don't know. And you come up with a specific objective. It might be to find the parents of your great-grandfather, great-grandmother. Excuse me for a second. So in that book, they talk about sources and the various sources that you can come up with, about the information that those sources provide. And after you look at that information, if it's appropriate, it might provide evidence for relating someone to your family, but you have to do the analysis to make sure that this is the right person and it can only be that person. They encourage locality research. The Family Search site is an excellent source for starting out with locality research. If it's a county in Missouri or if it's a town in South Africa, locality research, if they've got Ancestry or Family Search has got that covered very well, at least to start. You have to do some research planning, given all the assets that you have, from the internet to the books to your genealogical software that might be available. You have to plan out how you're going to reach your objective. We talked about source citations. They encourage that very heavily. They also encourage research logs. These logs are step by step what you did, let's say in a 4-hour period, you put session in, you moved along. You create a log, a line by line item that says I did this, this, and this. And you retain that so that a year from now or 5 months from now, when you're going back on that person that you're trying to research, you can look and not waste time by trying to go someplace that you've already been. You also log in the results. Report writing is important to them. It's report writing in the sense that you get all the details correct on your family history, but also that you write some stories about them. And those are always really what the outcome of all this should be, about the unique stories related to your family. Elizabeth Schoen Mills, and I see this all around the internet. Sources provide information. And that information from which we identify evidence for analysis. Evidence doesn't mean that it really fits. You have to analyze it. And that's where professional genealogists are very helpful. I want to show you the software capabilities of the software options that we have, not only for iOS, but also for Windows. And I'm going to discuss these points in this site I found on Wikipedia that looked to be quite good. You know, Sheeta, part of my presentation is covered by the pictures. How do I move those pictures so I can?
Where are the pictures?
On the right side.
Are the pictures on your desktop?
Yeah. You know, everybody's, oh, I know what I could do right here. I got it. I'll just put one. Okay. Thanks. All right. This is the genealogy software. This is an excellent site. It's almost up to date, but it's maintained by all the people that read it. And I looked for, my main objective was to find something that is related to Apple. And they all cover Mac OS, but how many covered iOS? And it's important to have my family history right in my pocket wherever I go, because you never know what you're going to run into, or if you're at a library or a town and you're doing a little research, you can use your phone. So these are the ones that have Mac OS, iOS, and Mac OS. And they start with Roots Magic, become really well known lately, and they go up. I remember that a lot of people use Family Tree Maker. It does have Mac OS. I remember that at the last presentation, but it doesn't have iOS, and I wanted both. Here are the ones that are available to do that. I started out with Family Tree Maker 15, 20 years ago, and switched to Reunion when I really got focused on the Mac. And now Mac Family Tree is the software that I use. The features that I like on this are on any genealogical software are chronology view, which means it creates a timeline. A timeline is very important for the person you're looking up to see when they lived and how the other people related to them as far as age go and who was alive when they were alive, as well as you put in world events so they know what they were dealing with in the world. Fan charts are excellent ways of looking at your family tree and preparing your research. Research manager, what are you going to do next? And how do you accomplish these overall objectives? They come up with recommendations as well as specific guidance as to, if you want to do this, go to the census. If you want to do this, get the birth certificates, etc. Mapping also is when you put out locate your ancestors on the map of the United States and the world, and you can see who else was there, where they all came from. These are other genealogical features, things I liked about witness to events. Often you get a certificate and you don't look at the witnesses that closely. You don't recognize the names, but pretty much they're going to be related one way or the other, either through marriage or through some other relationship. And they might be neighbors, but people often lived and traveled to the United States together, especially when they first arrived. So witnesses to events is a good source for treasures, for sources. And non-standard calendars are some religions that they dated differently. There's some countries that dated differently for a while, and that's a big help. Languages. The other thing I want to mention, this software is for your Mac computer or your computer. It is you put the information in, it's your property. There are other very effective sources to put a family tree together, and they're online. You don't own that. When you put it in there, it's theirs to maneuver with. And these are the software as a service types of websites that could provide family tree information, provide family tree structure, but you don't own the information. I do both. I put different branches on these on a site or two so that people can make comments on it. The social side of that is very effective. Okay, that's the software. Podcasts. This is the way I keep up to date with things that are happening in the world of genealogy. The manager of podcast app that I've used is Overcast and Downcast. Both excellent ways to manage and update, get the current podcast going. This is connected to the book, and this is the same people, Research Like a Pro, and very well prepared and very meticulous in how they make a presentation. And I don't like people wasting my time. That's why I follow that one. Same thing. Next one is Extreme Genes. This fella's been in the business for a long time. He understands what genealogists want to know. This is Scott Fisher, I believe, and I encourage the use of that one. It's helped me a lot. Ancestral Findings is, I'll quote that again, but on this one, their podcasts are well done, professionally done. And this one has this group of ebooks. This is his site. These books they're just so informative about a wide variety of things and how you acquire them. I already downloaded. How I acquired them is I made a donation to the site, and the donation could be for all 20 of these books as little as $5. And they're excellent sources for understanding certain parts of genealogy that would be difficult to find otherwise. That was Ancestral Findings. Generations Cafe is done by a person named Amy Johnson Crow. She doesn't do it regularly, but when she does, it's very informative, and she's up to date. Amy Johnson Crow has the Generations Cafe podcast. These genealogy guys podcast, there's Roots Magic, we talked about that. They update you each week on the newest things that are being added to a variety of collections from all over the world. They're right on top of that. That's always good to know. So that's the podcast side. Now the YouTube channels kind of connect to the websites also. But Family Search is one of my regular stops. And I use this for training. I get onto the site and I see something that I like, and I go get on the YouTube channel, all the videos, to find various aspects of that particular thing that I'm looking for. And um, this is one of the best sites for doing research, especially to start, is with Family Search. Next one is Ancestry. Now, it's the same concept. You get into the videos and you learn about how to approach a particular challenge or subject. And Ancestry is a monster site. In fact, you may have heard that, I think it was August of last year, that an investing firm, Blackstone, purchased a controlling share of Ancestry. They were calling the shots now. And the value was at $4.7 billion. It's with a B. Genealogy and Ancestry is big business. Especially with the COVID environment that we lived in, it's a big go-to site. Genealogy TV, this is somewhat of a more commercialized site, but she does a very good job, gets the points across very quickly, doesn't waste time. DNA is very confusing, and this young lady does a good job at making it simpler, easier to understand. And I just like her approach, and it's called Your DNA Guide. And this is the site for the person that's in that really is the connection between DNA and genetic genealogy. Lane Bettinger. All right. So now I'm going to talk about, we had that one approach from Nicole Dyer about how to approach research challenges. This is another one that was done by Ancestral Findings. And these are the things he says are important is after you've done the basic research, to get and refine the details and get documentation so that you can cite the source and prove that that person's related to you. Social Security and Death Benefits Index. They're easy to find. It's on the national sites. And I think the National Archives has a copy of that. I bet you can get them on Ancestry and so on. And obituaries. Newspaper obituaries are just rich with information that's current about not only who died, but who's going to attend the funeral. And the obituaries, the challenge is, if you go back 60, 80, 100 years, you really got to pay for the newspaper site. The National Archives have some, but not all of them. New York City is better at that than any other city. He says, don't forget the census, the guy in Ancestral Findings. Federal census done every 10 years, and everybody will know how old you are in a couple of years when those that were born in or alive in 1950 they're going to release your month and year of birth. State census in New York State was in between the federals, so it's on the any year that ended with a 5. The 1890 census, by the way, and the federal was pretty much destroyed. And that was a hot time for people immigrating, so it was a problem. Foreign birthplaces, some have census, some don't. Depends on the time and the place. But in my little town, they at one point in time they had a diagram of the town with the houses drawn out and the name of the family that lived in the house or the families that lived in the house and how many people lived in the house. It's not a census, but it's good information. You can always look for that. Ancestry Findings says, use your iPhone, bring it along when you're on any effort to collect information. Record interviews, and also either phone interviews. I think with the iPhone, you can record a phone interview, and you could take pictures of digital documents. Some libraries don't want to say no photography, but that means no flash. You could use natural light and take pictures of the documents. This is a site that's difficult to get your arms around, but it has a lot of family Bibles and details about people all over the world. It's called WorldCat. And this one has collections. This is a network of world libraries that have information on a lot of things, but genealogists have found it to be an excellent source for finding little treasures about specific families. WorldCat. Make it easier for other genealogists to find you. There are social media sites that connect to particular areas of the United States, our country, or other parts of the world. There are blogs that relate to certain sections of the world and certain sections of the country. Social media, it might be Twitter, Facebook, etc. And finally, on this one is join your local genealogy society. The Naples regional library has a whole room for genealogy, and it's manned by people from the Naples Genealogical Society. All right, yeah. So Amy Johnson Crow, I listened to her podcast. She came up with an acronym to help you process some of your research. It's called WANDER, W-A-N-D-E-R. What do you want to find? That's that concept of making a specific research objective. Analyze what you already have. And sometimes when you look back, you see things that you did 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that all of a sudden take on a different meaning because of the things you found out afterwards. And when you relate it back, you find out, oh, there's that witness. Now I know. Notes what's missing. Where are the holes? There's missing a connection between a couple of families and so on. Discover new records. Once you figure out what you need, look for those records based upon all the things you've learned on using the various sources for information. And then, of course, you analyze and evaluate everything that you have. And if you've solved your problem, you go to the next problem, or you repeat as necessary to get it done. Elizabeth Schoen Mills, her writings are all over the place in genealogy, but she coined this concept called fan club, friends, associates, and neighbors. And if you can't get a specific birth record for an important person in your tree, you can you get the people around them, and they include immediate family, extended family, others with the same surname in the town or the area that they lived in. Witnesses and informants, we talked about that. That's often that's recognized in some of the software. Executors for probate records, estates, signers of affidavits, military pensions, particularly from the Civil War, and businesses and other associates. This neighbor concept, I've picked some things up that I never would have expected, but I looked at the families around. There was one street in upstate New York where the church bought up a number of the houses, and they were the landing point for people that just came to the United States. They worked them into the neighborhood, but first they had to find a place to stay. One house had 6 extensions, one set of rooms after the other. So look up on the census and look up and down those streets. So I want to see if I can get through this. How much time we got? Enough time. There's a person named Lisa Louise Cook, and I attended one of her presentations. Not this one. I kind of went online, and this was a Roots Tech presentation in Salt Lake in 2018. So it's somewhat dated. Not that much. The concept is still there, but Google has changed the way it looks. And this is where you can use the what do they call them? She has a name for it. It's these different ways of approaching a search. If I put in Wayne William Mertz, Buffalo, New York, I would get at least 700,000 connections, because it would be New York, it would be New and York and Mertz and Wayne and Buffalo, and way too much stuff. She's really focused in on straightening that out. And Google is an excellent tool to find out what the connections to your ancestors. Not too dissimilar to the ideas, find out what you have, use Google tools to flesh out the details, and finally, so you can tell a richer and more complete story. Quotation marks was her first approach. If you type in Egert Goda, you get a certain, you get a certain set of things. But when I put it in quotes, you get way more focused of a search, and it has to include those 2 words in that order, and you're going to eliminate a lot of wasted time looking up the other ones. So she had, Lisa had these pictures or understanding about an event that took place, and there was the name Solomon, and the city was Tunbridge, I think it was in Scotland. And it was the first horseless carriage exhibition, but her relative was one of the persons involved in that. And that's what she focused on in this next one. Tunbridge Wells, horseless carriage, and the name Solomon. And she came up with 522 hits versus the hundreds of thousands, if not a million, that you would have gotten otherwise. So you put the quotes in, 3 sets of quotes. And this is one of the things she found was this, in this newspaper, a complete description recently written of that event. It's a wonderful way to get to rifle right in on what you're looking for. The name of the manufacturer of that was this carriage, Windover Carriage Works. And there were 17,000 when she put in Windover Carriage and the town of Huntington. She's described that Huntington has a lot of that town is really popular in Canada, and she didn't want to know about Canada. So she put the minus sign in front of Canada, and it narrowed it down from hundreds of thousands to 17,000. Another operator is the asterisk. That's the word I was looking for before, is asterisk. These are like wildcards. And you put an asterisk in at the end of the name. My name is, ancestors were named Zelinsky, Zelinsky, but they didn't have a lot of hits. What I did was put an asterisk, SK, Zelinsk or Zelin, and I came up with much more closer hits by using the asterisk. And here's an example of an asterisk where right here, Harry Cook, I think he was the owner of the company, or the person that was involved with that Tunbridge Wells. That's one of her ancestors. Is she put that in there because there were way too many hits otherwise, and she narrowed it way down. And the final one is this num range. And it's just like it says there, indicated there. You put a bracket, opening bracket, a date or any number, but a date, 1820, 2 dots, and 1840. That's the num range. And hopefully if you're on a genealogical site, you will get only those that relate to whatever operator you had before that and that range. I'll show you the example of it. Horse's carriage, Tunbridge, she didn't know the exact date, but she put that in 1893 to 1896 and 2 dots. And she came up with a very controlled database that she could manage, and much more rewarding. You can waste your time with hundreds of thousands of other websites, and is not useful. And she found these pictures when she got and that was her great-great-grandfather or something. So you take those operators, and let's say you don't find anything, it doesn't hit, but that doesn't mean something else isn't going to come down the road at Google where they might reference that. Like anything else that's done on the internet, tomorrow is different than today and different than yesterday. So Google Alerts, this is the way it looks now, but this Google Alerts concept is you could type in Google Alerts and you will be on the page that says create your alert. You type in what you want, use all the operators, the quotes, use the asterisk, use the number range, and post it like that. And tell them when you want to, how often you want to report, and it'll do that. It's like Lisa said, it's like having an assistant checking the internet every hour about if there's any hits on your search. This is Google Alert, and there's that same thing. And she got one of these more information about that event and her great-great-grandfather from a Google Alert. She says it's like when you have a roadblock, you keep shaking the trees, and Google Alerts are doing the shaking. I was astounded when I put in that little town of 30, just recently put in that town of 30 houses, how many pictures I got when I put in Google Images. It's not, I don't think it's this way. Just put in Google space images. You'll get on the site and you put in a specific search with the operators, and you might be amazed at what you come up with images. Search, yeah. So she put in Windover, that was the name of the manufacturer, carriage in Huntington, and she came up with a whole series of images and pictures relate. In fact, that was apparently a rendering of the factory. how Google finds images. They take the photos and then they search in the description and around the image. They would search for words that might point to Windover or other things that you're looking for that you've specified. Google Images. They not only do pictures, they do maps, drawings, engravings, paintings, postcards, charts, graphs, and clip art. Don't forget about copyrights. And hopefully I won't get in trouble doing Lisa's thing. Google Books is another one. You can get into Google Books. And this is where some people have put, Google has gone into a library all over the country and they've gotten family history Bibles or books and presented it. They scanned them and they put them in, and you might get a hit on Google Books. So I think, let's see what the next one is. So that concludes the presentation, but all the people that are watching and all the people that may look at this later on, I want to say that upcoming next month, at the end of next month in February, is Roots Tech 2021. I described it as I opened up, and it is an excellent genealogy seminar that is really big, and they have professional speakers from all over the world. This year, it's going to be virtual, and as you can see, it's free. It was expensive for me, but I've already logged in for it. But the presentations are going to be from different that affect different parts of the world, and they're going to be rotating around the world for 2 or 3 days as the presentations are made. So in Europe, they're going to have the British are going to have it at their time, their comfortable time. That's the way it is for the whole world. So if you want to watch a Brit one, you're going to be staying up late. Or Australia, you're going to be getting up awful early. All in all, especially since this is virtual and you can watch it in your living room or your den, just register for it. And I encourage anybody that's interested or has done work before to get involved, and you'll get the whole agenda of what's available once it's published. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm more than happy to take some questions.
All right, does anyone have any questions? If you could raise your hand or put your question in the chat, we'd be more than happy to call on you. So far, I don't see any questions. Wayne, you were very thorough.
Oh, yeah. Probably went too fast. I went too fast, but.
Oh, no, you were just fine. Natalie, do you have a question?
Yes. What was the name of that site that you said that they're going to be showing around the world? You can register?
That's Roots Tech 2021. It's up there now. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay, I see it now. Yes. Thank you.
Roots, yes.
All right, next question. Anyone?
Wayne, this is Mary Condon Rohr. I was wondering if you found any surprises in your genealogical research about your own family.
Yes, that I see. I've dug in a little bit about that, and thanks for the question. I don't know enough about how the DNA system works, but there's something called centimorgans. And there's a person named IC that's been on not only my DNA report, I went through Family Tree DNA. I mean, let's see. Yeah, Family Tree DNA and 23andMe and Ancestry. And on 2 out of the 3, she comes up as 965 centimorgans. The closest person to me she's the most connected relative that I have, and I don't even know her. And I believe she lives in California. But she was, her name is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what her name is, but I think it's Irene Crawford. She was born in Buffalo as Irene Bork. At least that's what the indication is. And other cousins, my cousins who connect with me on DNA have said, who's IC? So they got her too. And I did that fan concept of researching clusters and streets. And lo and behold, I found my great grandmother, my grandmother on my mother's side, the name was Koenig. And there was a Bork that lived on the same street. Not only was it on the same street, as I looked closely, it was the same house. They had the same they lived in the same house. So I'm still scratching my head on all of that, but maybe when I figure out the DNA, I'll let you all know.
Thanks.
Dale, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, Wayne. Hey, how much would you expect to have to spend to get into this genealogy thing between buying the software and subscriptions to companies like Ancestry?
Yeah, Ancestry can be expensive. Investment bankers don't pay 4.7 billion for something that's not going to throw off money. And but it is successful. And probably the answer to that is you could get in pretty easily. I think this Mac family tree was like $50 or so. And you get it, maybe it'll be good for about 2 or 3 years, and then you got to rebuy it at half price. But the Ancestry, I don't think you can get into anything less than, well, you can get it for $19 a month or $20 a month, but I go in, I buy the thing for about $100 for 6 months, and then I get out of it. And then I go back in. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if it's still going on, but if you have a Collier County library card, you can go to the site at Ancestry, and you don't have to be at the library. When you're in your den, you can get it, log on, and it's just like you're at the library. So you can use the Ancestry for free now.
Excellent, thank you.
And
Any
you'll
other
end up
questions?
You'll end
Go
up
ahead.
spending way more money than you really need to, but it's fun.
All right, any other questions? Natalie, go ahead.
How many other family members do you have in with you in searching this for a length of time? Because I'm trying to get my family interested in a lot of things I've collected, and it's finding the right one that you can turn them on.
It's a problem because kids nowadays, it's very difficult to get someone connected. I have 8 grandchildren. I've been working like heck to get one of them connected, but it's because I've amassed a lot of things. And I want to tell the story. I got to get everything ready to tell the story and put a nice book together. And I have about 800 people in the tree now.
Wow.
But I gotta say, it's a tough sell for these kids. All of a sudden, the light will go on. One of the things I did way back when, in 1998, is I had all the people that I didn't know I was related to. I built a book that was, to that point, was about 300 people, and 60 of them showed up, and I made a presentation. And I told them, we introduced ourselves to each other because we did not know we were related. Some of them are second cousins, third cousins, but we were all related. So I have like a built-in connection with them because of that. And I call some of them once in a while because I'm running down a branch and I'm trying to find out. And they say, "Oh, I remember, Wayne, you made that presentation at the Navy Chief Club on the waterfront in Lake Erie, and we loved it. And thanks for the book." And then I bought a lot of connections when we had that presentation, but it's hard to get someone to follow it, and it's and to continue with it. That's why I'm going to create a digital file when I get it all done, and I'm going to hand it to all the grandchildren and say, "This is for you. Do what you want with it."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good tip. Good
Thank
tip,
you.
Wayne. John Morgan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Hi there, Wayne. I'm in Europe, and there may be a chance of finding heraldic sort of family connections. I'm wondering which of these softwares is good at recording titles and heraldic patterns and stuff.
Well, I would say get on the Roots Tech seminar list, and you may find it. And then I'd also say family search in that specific area that your ancestors were from. You could do the local research right on family search, and that's so beneficial. And also to put in quotes that particular term that you talked about. Put it in quotes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Richard Cox, can you please unmute yourself and comment on what you put in the chat?
Yes. I wondered at your preference for Mac Family Tree over Family Tree Maker. When you're in the person data screen, Family Tree Maker, you got everything all laid out in one screen. In Mac Family Tree, you have to scroll through many lengths of the screen to see everything because you have all, like I have 44 media items for one person. Well, I got to go through facts and other things down at the bottom.
Well, I know what you're talking about, and it's really comes out to a personal preference. What attracted me to Mac Family Tree was the graphics, that colorful things that they did, and I'm trying to lure one of my grandkids in, so I thought maybe that would work. But I remember Mac Family Tree is one of the most respected sites, some pieces of software in the industry. And it's just a personal preference is what it comes down to. But once you make the commitment, you know, you like to stick, you stick with it until someone says, "I really like this or that or the other thing." The other comment I make is you could probably always try these things. You take a leg of your tree and create a GEDCOM file, GEDCOM. That's pretty much the standard in the industry with regard to taking up all the work that you've done on a family tree, converting it into a GenCom file, and then transfer it to another genealogical software program and give it a shot. That's how you can compare the two.
I guess I have another question.
Natalie, go ahead.
Yes, Wayne, since I'm trying to let other people come in if they have questions, but if they don't right away, I have other questions. One of them that I'm thinking about is how many times do you videotape some of the relatives talking about their past history, or following like your grandchildren and following them, because that's something that I've done over the years.
Well, that's an excellent way. And all of these presentations say, find the oldest relative that you have, try to convince them to sit down with you and talk about the family history in the past, and either video it or record it audio.
Shoot.
And that's by far the best research that you can do. Unfortunately, most of my relatives are passed. I don't have any uncles or aunts left. I don't have my parents, and all of them are gone. And I'm the only one, so they got to listen to my stuff.
I've lost you
Uh,
on my computer. I've lost you because of that phone call. Let's see.
oh, I can hear you.
I can hear you too, so I guess that's what matters. But I know that I had compiled a lot of information, and in the beginning, getting into this was sending them VHS tapes to my mother-in-law. And as soon as I sent her the first VHS tape, she said, "Don't ever send me another present. When is the next one coming?" So back in the 80s, I was trying to make a tape for her, for a 2-hour tape every 6 months. And later on, she had a stroke, and my husband set this small videotape up in the room where she was being cared for at a care facility, because she could only hear and see, but she couldn't speak or move around at all. And the nurses came in every 2 hours the last week of her life and played those tapes. So that is kind of really what got me into it, because I realized that they had value even to the end like that.
Well, somehow you got to make sure that you get that video tape, that's that magnetic tape, and get it digitized so
Well,
that
I transferred about 500 into DVDs, and now DVDs aren't being used, so I need to go put them on hard drives.
Yeah, and that's right. That's a lot of data. So you've got but those are great. And in 20, 30, 40 years, people will be delighted to watch that.
Yes.
And they'll say, "What a great aunt I had."
I don't know about that, but I do
Wayne?
know that.
Yes,
Wayne, does it seem like people that get interested in genealogy are in most cases seniors?
that's for the most part. When I went to Roots Tech, it was the average age must have been 50, 60 plus, 60 plus, 50 plus. The younger folks, they've studied it, they followed it, and there's a way to become a professional at it, and to have it as a way of income, especially people that aren't the primary breadwinner in a family. And you can really do a lot online now compared to when I started. Every year there are more capabilities, and but George, to the question is this is a senior thing, and I have found more time now. I used to put it away, and then I get it about 2 years later, and I get going in it, and I put it away. But now I can really focus on it much more.
You said your grandkids were not that interested. What about their parents, your actual kids?
There might be an opening there. In other words, as they get older and they have more time around, and they can create their own schedule, there is some interest in there. So, but I'm going to hook one, and And it'll be a big catch when I hook one. Because once you get the bug, you can't get rid of it.
About the media that your content is on. One of the things that you really need to be proactive about is to pull that media into present form. It's like you were talking about, you have Medium on VHS and then you have it on DVD and you want to make it digital. Even some of the footage that I had several years ago in QuickTime eventually stopped being recognized because of the different operating systems. So you have to pull that medium forward, even if you want it to just sit around, but you have to pull it forward with you with the new updated systems. Otherwise, some software may not be able to recognize that digital media.
So that's really an ongoing issue. You have to keep moving it forward.
I do remember one of the podcasts talking about a website that does that for you. I don't have any details, but you could do the search and you give them a database and they'll retain it. They'll store it for you on site and it'll be up to date.
That may be, but I think you're better off making sure that you pull that because you don't know what proprietary system they're using. And if your software eventually becomes uncompatible with theirs, use the applications that you have and bring that media forward. Just my suggestion.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? All right, you have 2 minutes.
Wayne,
I don't have it. Yes.
do you have anything further to say? Go ahead.
No, nothing in. That's it.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate this meeting, and it was interesting how the questions started coming in very slow, and then one question seemed to create another question and another question, and that's the way many of these meetings work. But we really appreciate this, and we try to have Wayne talk about this on a yearly basis. So if those of you stay interested, but I find it very interesting because there's a lot of things that I have done over the years that I wanted. I assume that there would be some interest from my grandkids, and it's very frustrating because there is not. And I'm not sure I'm going to be around when they're 90 years old. So you're just going to leave it someplace where it'll be accessible so they can get to it when they do get interested, if they do.
I might say to that, George, local genealogy societies might take family history information and perpetuate it, at least in the archives. And they're always connected with local libraries. So that might be a thought, at least to hold it for some time until your great-grandchildren say, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to get into that. And they go to the library and they got it all there and they continue it.
All right, Wayne. Well, listen, thank you very much.